Hi everybody, notice a new logo? That was a gift from a friend of mine called Mariam Nueri. I'm quite sure I've got her last name wrong. Sorry Mariam, if I have, let me know how to pronounce it, but she designed that for us to improve on the somewhat ropey efforts I did and have been using for the last couple of years. It's truly awesome. Anyway, on with today's topic. Today's topic, of course, is about heating. Now, heating is a debate like everything else, with everybody getting their ideas about what's a good thing. And there's this huge debate going on between wet cold and dry cold. If you don't know, my wife is actually from America. She's from Ohio, where she got an awful lot of dry cold. In England, we get an awful lot of wet cold, and she's forever complaining about the difference. How she feels so cold now, like she never used to do when she was a child. And I sometimes wonder if it's because she was wrapped up to the nines when she was a child, and right now she doesn't dress nearly as heavily. But she swears blind there's a difference between the two, and having done so much on heat, we get an awful lot of comments who also swear blind there's a fundamental difference between the two. And one suggestion that's out there on how to cheaply heat your home is dehumidify it. Get yourself some calcium chloride, stick it in little pots around the room, and it will suck the water out of the air, and that will make it warmer, or at least cheaper to warm. And that's the idea. Now, whether cold is worse wet or worse dry has been a debate for ages. And back in the 50s, there was a particular debate for the various armed forces of various countries, and the Canadians led the charge on this one and decided to do some testing. So what they did was they got a huge bunch of squaddies and split them into two. Half of them allowed to stay dressed, and the other half they stripped naked. They ran the whole lot round a parade yard while they sprayed them with icy cold water, and they took the temperature both orally and anally. So I got this image of Canadian military running around stark naked with thermometers up their behinds being sprayed with water. The Canadians were not only the first people to do that, they were followed suit by the French, the British and the Americans. And at the end of those experiments, what they concluded was it didn't really make much of a difference. Not to your core body temperature. Because that's really unsatisfying to people, because people have that sense of there being an actual difference. And there is a degree of explaining it. It's reckoned that when it's wet, what happens is your clothes get wet. When your clothes get wet, they lose their insulation value, so of course you feel colder. Most dry cold days are actually sunny, and the sun heats us all by infrared, so if we're stood in the sun, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference as the air temperature is, you still feel warmer because the sun is hitting you. Usually in wet cold climates, of course, it's shady and there is no sun, so there's all this sort of argument about it and equivocal ideas about it, with people saying that's how they experience it. And so it was picked up again about 2 years ago, this time again by the Canadians, who repeated slightly less brutal experiments with their soldiers and found exactly the same thing. It's a bit 6 and 2 3s. It doesn't matter one way or the other. Cold is cold. But of course, we experience things as feelings. So if dry cold makes you feel warmer, then what the hey, go for it. If it makes you feel better, why not put some calcium chloride in your room? You'll feel better, and isn't that one of the points? Anyway, the difference between dry cold and wet cold, none at all. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe, and thank you very much again, Mariam.